Hey guys, welcome to Celia's playlist. I am here with Taz Defiant, the symphonic metal amazing artist that I have here today. So Taz, I'm bringing you on. I want you to tell me what got you into these complex like metal
Well, I
orchestrated
started.
like
It
just I
started.
it's like a symphony it's so many layers. I want to hear about it.
Well, I started in fourth grade. I picked up the trumpet. I wanted to follow my brother's footsteps. He was played trombone. Teacher goes, "You're not going to reach the trombone. You can't reach far enough." I said, "I didn't want the trombone. I said I want trumpet. It's small and easy to carry." But I'm 2 feet tall, so it was not small and easy to carry. But I grew in a sort of affinity towards classical music, and I just started writing my own stuff. Then I heard Steve Vai on guitar when I was in high school, and that put me onto guitar. Then I heard Goldfinger, and that was it. And it was punk music. But punk was fun, but I felt like I wanted more. So I took that past and that symphonic edge, and I wanted to create something that goes beyond just energy. I wanted to tell a story. I wanted people to get pictures in their heads when they hear my music. I want to portray what I'm trying to write about.
I love that. And I love that you're able to do that with so much complexity because when you're listening to your music, there's so many layers. How do you come up with all of these different parts? Because you have to have like a degree of knowledge in like music and music, I guess, composition and theory to like be able to make such a, I keep using complex, but complex like arrangement.
Well, I mean, for the music for me, I learned to read music from an early age because of the trumpet. So that just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of clicked. I took a little bit of theory in high school, but theory was not really the base of what I'm doing. I
Mm-hmm.
just learned what I felt I needed to learn. And at the time, I didn't know why I was learning some of these things. Like when I learned to read, like beyond treble and bass clap, but reading tenor clap and reading how and learning to write for violins and violas. I didn't play any of those instruments. I didn't know why I
Mm-hmm.
was learning. I just said, I think I need to learn this.
I like that, like, it didn't limit you not being able to play the instrument to be able to write for the instrument because I feel like that's something that people allow to be a barrier for them because as long as you understand I guess the melodies, the feelings, and what you're trying to portray, it allows you to figure out those parts. And especially, like, you make a good point. Like, if you play a certain instrument, you know a certain kind of music, like in terms of like the where everything lies in the sheet music. Because I played viola and I played flute, and they're in two very different, you know, I guess both mindsets, but also ways that you would like, I guess, write those parts. So, what was like, your process in being able to, I guess, imagine these parts to come together for your music?
Well, I have a condition known as synesthesia. It's the and everything that if I you put me in a room when I hear something, I'm gonna see it.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually the process for my music video. I did my music video for that song for my very first release, not because it would be big, not because everybody would see it, but because I liked what I saw. I liked the visuals that I saw, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to put that down.
That's really cool. I know that that's like it's not the most common thing. So can you tell us what synesthesia like is? I know that you mentioned you see stuff, but like what at its core is synesthesia?
Synesthesia is the overlapping of senses. You could smell something. You could smell, and then you
Mm-hmm.
taste something. You could hear something, and in your head you're going to see it. It's overlapping of different senses.
Where do you think that like that influence in particular has like allowed you to grow as an artist? Because I know, I believe John Mayer is someone that also has like synesthesia, and like that's one of the reasons his music is the way his music is.
Well, I mean, I consider myself a spiritual individual. also consider myself open-minded on a lot of this. I find that limiting our own beliefs, it not only limits ourselves but limits our growth, especially with other people. But for something like synesthesia, I have to meditate. I have to sit there and just listen with no distractions and just see what's in my head. And sometimes it gets exciting, sometimes it's a little fractured. Sometimes it was even a little different. Like, part of what happened with the music video was I wrote like one paragraph on paper, what I wanted. Like, I wrote the different characters down for the video, and I wrote down what happened with them, what they represented. And then I handed it over to my videographer. I said, "Can you make this?" She goes, "Oh yeah, I can do that."
That's really cool. And I love the fact that you had like different characters but played by yourself in the music video. And I gotta ask about the clown. Where did the clown come from?
I wanted it to be an aspect of my inner child, but sitting in an abandoned warehouse, getting clown makeup put on, kind of made me feel a little bit like I was Cousin It. When there was no from It. If I felt like I was in a horror movie, I wanted to be the innocent child, but it was just weird.
I mean, I love that you were using like the metaphors though. You know what I mean? Like, is that like, are you kind of like a bigger picture writer in that kind of way? Because I always speak in metaphors. I'm a big fan of metaphors and things along those lines. And I know that there were a lot of aspects that you know, I did see in the video as I took a quick look through it. Does that affect, I guess, your process when you're creating as well? Like, I know it definitely affects mine.
Yeah, I suppose it does. It is all metaphor and bigger picture for me. I'm writing what I'm writing about, and I'm putting emotion behind it. But I want the listener to come up with their own interpretation and to learn it in their own way. I feel like there's more opportunities not just my growth, but for the listener to think outside the box a little.
I like that, and I think that it comes through in your music because you're building like an atmosphere within your song, not just a composition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that the complexity. I keep bringing that up just because, like, you know, when I found out, like, hey, like, I wrote all of this and I did basically all of this, like, I'm like, what? Because for the listeners' knowledge, we actually know each other in real life, and you know, we met at a street fair first, but then I was having a meeting with Arizona Lindsay one day, and she's like, "You got to meet this guy. Like, he comes in with all of the sheet music, and he wrote it all himself, and this and that." And then you walk in the front door, and I'm like, "Wait, I know this guy." And and I loved the juxtaposition because I met you. I think that you were buying poetry from our friend Bruce. And,
no, I wasn't buying it.
Or the guy next to you was.
We
but
tried at a very specific request that I don't want to get into.
We don't have to get into that, but that was the setting in which we met. And, like, you know, just like with everything else, like, when you meet people in that way, you never know what kind of person and what kind of, like, background they have. So meeting you as a person and then as an artist was like a really cool moment for me because it showed the dimension that you have as a person.
Only one. Oh, that's only two of my dimensions, though.
Oh boy, there must be more dimensions. That's another story. So once you get past the writing process, like, you know, what is the studio process like for you?
I will admit I'm not always great with drum lines. That's one thing I've never been able to get the hang of. In fact, I played drums before I played guitar, and I was so bad. That's why I switched to guitar. I learned to read the music, though, so I'm grateful for that. But usually I put it together, and I run over it with my team, with my producer. Arizona Lindsay writes fantastic drum lines. Everything she puts in there is absolutely incredible. And once that comes to life, everything else just kind of lands into place. But the guitar work for me, because I play guitar, has been something I never expected any of these songs to take the turn they did. A lot of my guitar lines just kind of, I write it down, but they end up making themselves. There's a solo towards the end of Devil Inside, right at the very end, when he goes, "You hate it, this all should stop." There's this little solo. I didn't plan that. we were recording, and I said, turn on the recording, and I just put something in.
I love that. And I love that you're able to like allow things to develop because I feel like especially when it's someone that's writing and like, you know, putting together their own songs, like you get into that mindset of like it has to be this. And being able to have that flexibility in the studio, not even just working with a producer, but like mentally to be like, ah, yes, let's develop this more is a very cool thing. And it allows for like growth within the actual music, I feel.
It does. I've found that I love the writing process and I love the creation process and I love doing part of that myself. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, I find it important to work with other people. I think that having a closed mind and wanting to control everything isn't always a positive mindset. I believe there's more together. I think it's important that we understand how we control ourselves and how much we can control ourselves. But ultimately, we are not alone. Nobody is alone. And by accepting that, we can learn to grow not just our work, but ourselves as people. We can let go of our weak points. We can let go of insecurities and see that everybody has something to offer.
Definitely, and I think that's really also important within the creative communities to have a thought process like that because you know you never know what someone's going to come out with, especially like if you know they're trying to you know collaborate and widen their I guess scope of what they do as well. So that's just me brain dumping. So I want, I wanna ask you, what is the future hold with Taz Defiant? You know, what are you working on these days? Like, what are you creating?
I'm creating myself.
Ooh, that's a great answer.
I'm moving to Brooklyn, which doesn't sound far because I'm on Long Island, but for me that's a lifetime because I'm trying to leave all my baggage behind me. Everything I is being let go of, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting a new beginning. And I unfortunately had to delay the release of my first album due to this new beginning, but it was time, and I just want to see where it goes. I want to keep making music. Music is not only therapy for me, but it's the reason that I'm alive. And I don't plan to stop, but I want to see what happens. I'm trying tons of different avenues. I'm looking into sync licensing. Um, I'd like to tour. I would love to tour, but I have to see. I have to see how things go. I feel like I just felt called to Brooklyn. I felt the Brooklyn, New York City area. There's more people. There's more opportunities. I feel like practically that's where I should be. New York City is practically the capital of the world in a sense. The way so many people come, and I feel like for communication, there's no better place for me than New York City. And from there, who
I
knows?
love that. I love that you're working on essentially creating a new reality for yourself.
A better
That's essentially
reality.
what it is. And I love that concept because I have had to do that a number of times for myself. Like, you know, I had to like figure out what's working for me, what's not working for me, what do I want to take into the future and like, you know, that like having that move, like when I moved over to where I am now, I had that whole reset and that allows you to discover a lot about yourself and it allows you to open up new creative avenues that may not have been possible before. So I commend you for making the jump.
I'll admit to being scared.
I mean, that's part of it, but like, isn't that like part of it that makes it a little exciting too?
Until I made this decision several months ago, I never saw fear turning into anything other than fear. And I
Mm-hmm.
suppose that was past trauma. But I've learned recently that fear can be powerful. And with proper distance, it can be a friend. From that fear, we can bring awe into who we become. And once that awe steps in, there's nothing left but excitement for the future and for the present.
I think I needed to hear that today, so thank you. I'm going to ask you the last question that I've been asking everyone, real quick, just because I'm looking at the time. If someone was going to start in music today, or just start creating today, what would be your piece of advice for them? And you could take that in any direction. What would be your piece of advice to someone that wants to start?
Keep an open mind, but know who you are, know what you want, and know what you're worth. Once you know all those keys about yourself, then when you open up, the right people will come.
I like that a lot. That's great advice. Awesome. So Taz Defiant, where can people follow you on the internet?
Everywhere but Facebook.
And is it under Taz Defiant?
Yes, Taz Defiant.
Amazing. So thank you so much for sitting down with me today. This was such a fun interview. I learned so much more about you today than the amount of times that I've met you, and like I'm glad that we had this time to like actually have a conversation and hang out. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Of course. And to everyone else watching on the internet, make sure you go check out Taz Defiant, and I'll see you guys on the next interview.